So we are here a few days, I think 2 or 3, depending on when I post this, removed from the Super Bowl. And it's given me some time to think about what we all saw. And me personally, I think we saw a really good Super Bowl and one that we're going to talk about for a while. A classic, in my opinion. And with Super Bowls, I always get this fear of not getting a good game. I mean, it's a one game sample size where anything can happen. It's two NFL teams that are probably beaten up, just given how football is and how hard it is to make it through a season. And both these teams showed out. I mean, we got this type of game where it was like, it was a game that while it had high scoring and a lot of good offense, it didn't feel like that there was no defense. The defense still made big plays. And overall, I mean, okay, I ain't going to say it played well. I don't think either defense played like good. One defense just played good enough to win. And we had two legendary quarterback performances given what was happening with one and the other one just taking over the game in ways that we didn't think he could. Now, I know what everyone's going to talk about, that controversial quote-unquote penalty at the end. And all I'm going to say is it was a penalty. That was a holding. And if it wasn't called, we'll be having the same conversation, but just from the other side, I feel like. So it was a call. They called it. He got beaten. He held. And we're actually going to get into that more later. Now, my first takeaway is Jalen Hurts is here to stay. Before coming into this game, I was a fan of Jalen Hurts, and of course I still am, and even more so, but I thought there's just a level where he's at. I thought he was a little bit better than a game manager, which is not a diss. People associate game manager with just being a diss, but the greatest quarterback as of right now that we have ever seen, as of right now, Tom Brady, he did retire, quote unquote. He was a game manager. And he did that at such a high level, and it was hard to stop. And that's what I thought Jalen Hurts would be. Someone who plays in the confines of your offense, doesn't make a mistake, and will make the occasional play just because of his legs. In this game, he was a playmaker. He played outside the confines of the offense. I mean, he had 304 yards passing, 1 touchdown through the air. And then he had 70 yards rushing on 15 carries and 3 touchdowns. He dominated the game for the Eagles. He was the Eagles' offense. He completely took over the game and also made some great passes. That one to Gobbert was right in between the corner and the safety where it wasn't incompletion. I didn't think he caught it, but hey, they couldn't overturn it. But the ball placement was amazing. If that ball wasn't placed perfectly, it's picked or at best for the Eagles incomplete. And that one deep ball to A.J. Brown where he just got it out there in a place where only A.J. Brown could catch it. He played his ass off. He played in a way where I didn't think he could play. And I don't think I ever seen him raise the ceiling of his team like that. Even though he's always been on these stacked teams. If you look back at his days at Alabama and Oklahoma, this was one of the first times where he was the reason he raised the level of this team. And it was amazing. I think he's here to stay, and he may have vaulted himself into a new tier. We'll see when I break down the tiers of quarterbacks, which I am going to do this offseason, the NFL offseason. And my next thing is Patrick Mahomes is borderline unstoppable. I don't know how to stop this man. The stats may not look as impressive as his game was. He was 21-27 for 182 yards and 3 touchdowns. Ran for another 44 yards on 6 carries. He ran for 44 yards on a high ankle sprain that got re-aggravated right before the second half. And that's amazing. As an athlete who's had ankle sprains, that's really impressive to do. Just go out there and gut it out with the ankle sprain and still move, because he was moving. And he even had that big, long run on that drive to really set them up. His biggest play was with his legs, and he had a high ankle sprain. That's just impressive to me. This, to me, was his flu game. His Jordan flu game. And I think he's Jordan. He's one of the best I've ever seen do this. He has all the physical traits, all the arm, the accuracy, the mobility that you would want out your quarterback. But the one thing that he kind of showed in this game, and really showed all season, but especially in this game, is patience. His longest pass was 22 yards. He was taking whatever the defense gave him. He was 21-27. He only had 6 incompletions on 27 throws. That's impressive. didn't turn the ball over at all. A patient Patrick Mahomes is dangerous because when you play them, even if you switch up the defense, which you should, and we'll get into that later, you're always going to try and limit the big play, and he wasn't taking the big play. And also, I said this to one of my friends watching the game, this man out there with salt and pepper cooking a seasoned meal, out there with nothing. I mean, I know, of course, Travis Kelce ain't nothing. One of the greatest, if not maybe the greatest pass catching tight end, but that's just a tight end. There's so steep a drop off between Travis Kelce and the rest of his weapons. It's crazy. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, all dudes that both dudes are at best a third option. That's where you would want them to be. Juju maybe could be a 2, but at this point probably just a 3. At this point in his career, he's a 3. And then you have Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, 2 young promising players, but haven't showed you much. They're not number ones, not yet at least, and they may not be. But he was cooking with them boys, cooking. And even his running backs. I mean, you have Pacheco, I don't know if I said his name right, who is a promising rookie, but he ain't no world beater. He cooking with salt and making a seasoned meal, y'all. And it's scary because they can go out and get more pieces. You lose Tyreek Hill and then you win the Super Bowl. How are you better after Tyreek Hill? I have no clue. This should not happen, but it's Mahomes, so it's possible. And my next takeaway is Philly's defense failed them. How do you have a game where your offense dominates time of possession, damn near scores every time they touch the ball, and you just can't get stops when you need to? Mahomes only had the ball for like maybe 8 minutes in that first half. And your offense sets you up in every way you need them to. And you didn't come through for them. And you didn't make nearly enough adjustments. When you're going against Mahomes, the key is to keep him on his toes. Show him something different. Because at this point, Mahomes has seen every defense. It's like I heard Iggy had this quote about LeBron where to really slow down LeBron or try to, what the Warriors did was they knew they had to stop him or stifle him on every possession, but in a different way every time. Because once you show him the same thing twice, he's like, ooh, I got you. I'm going there. I'm going to cook you. And Mahomes is at the point where his brain is catching up to his body. And that's scary, man. So what you have to do, and why the Bengals have been such a pain in his ass, is because they've been able to switch. That defensive coordinator is smart enough to say, I'm going to show you something different almost every time you get out here. It's not going to be the same thing twice, and definitely not the same thing consecutive times, which is what Philly did. Philly made changes, but when it was too late. And they made that little in-out motion. They were getting cooked on that. The reason Bradbury held is because they were getting cooked. They made the adjustment, and he was getting beat. If he doesn't hold Juju, that's probably a touchdown because Juju's running free. And Mahomes is just dropping in the breadbasket. This defense did not do enough, man. It did not do enough. And the reason I say this, and not about the Chiefs, is because this defense was what I thought was going to be the X factor. I thought Mahomes would struggle against his defense, given he was hurt and didn't really have weapons. Because his defense is supposed to be really good. I don't think they're as good as we thought they were. And my final takeaway is that both these teams will be back. First of all, the Chiefs are a really good team when it comes to drafting. If you look at most of this roster, a lot of them are homegrown talent. I mean, and especially this young defense, and a very underrated player in this game, Nick Bolton. He had that one touchdown when Jalen Hurts dropped it. He had the other touchdown that was called back. I don't know if Miles Sanders, I don't know if that was a catch or not. I'm 50-50 on that. But that one touchdown that was called back, and he led them in tackles. He's a second-year player out of Missouri that they drafted late, I think. It was either 4th round or less. They are a really good team when it comes to drafting. I mean, if you look at that secondary, Brian Cook out of Cincinnati, rookie. Trip McDuffie out of Washington, rookie. Josiah Williams out of Fayetteville State, HBCU, my brother, rookie, out there playing good enough. They are young and they're learning, and that says a lot about your development, that they're able to out there and be somewhat productive. in these big games, even though they're so young. And also, they just draft well. Chris Jones. They drafted Chris Jones. They drafted Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Isaac Pacheco in the 7th round. That offensive line, the interior of that offensive line, they rebuilt with Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. They drafted them boys. They draft well, and that is what you have to do when you're paying the quarterback all this money. And now, why the Eagles will be back? 6 years ago, they were in the Super Bowl. They beat the Patriots. Since, a lot has happened in them 6 years. In them 6 years, they fired their head coach. They lost what they thought was their franchise quarterback, and they had years where they looked terrible. And 6 years later, they're in the Super Bowl. This front office has shown the ability to overhaul a roster the right way and make the right choices and the right changes, even if they seem very drastic and kind of unorthodox in the moment. This front office is really good, man. They had to stack roster back. They had to stack the roster back when they beat the Patriots. They came back here with another stacked roster with almost completely different players. And you know what else they have? They had the 10th pick in the draft. So they can go out there and maybe replace one of them offensive linemen, since that offensive line is kind of old. It's kind of getting up there. Lane Johnson kind of getting old. Jason Kelce may retire. Or maybe get another weapon for Jalen Hurts. Maybe. Or you can replace some pieces on that defense, because some people are getting old in that defense. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. And even in that back end, I know some of them guys are up to get paid. They have a lot of ways that they can improve. The Eagles could improve, man. Same thing with the Chiefs. Both these teams are in a place where they can still improve, or they can still sustain this level of play that they had this season. And for the Chiefs, what they've had for the past 5-6 years, or Andy Reid's whole timeline, or Patrick Mahomes' whole time there. And that's really all I got to say about the Super Bowl. Those are my key takeaways. If you made it to this point in this video, thank you. This is my first one, so it means a lot. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm just starting out in this journey. This video may not be the best, but hey, just support me. I love y'all, man. Peace.